Good evening, I am Matterall. Tonight on Talking in Stations, the future of Triglavian invasions. The first Anaconda structure is dropped in Delve and destroyed. And a look at some articles from Kotaku, Reddit, and other places. Those stories and more on TIS Today, the EVE Online report. Let's get started. How are you doing, Maddoxar?
Hey, I'm doing great. We're also here with Gagorin and special guest Aridia or Balfour Dysnomia.
Hello.
Hey, how are you doing?
I am doing well. It's a little hectic right now.
Yeah. We know you're in a hurry, but we wanted to ask you about Edencom and what's going on with Triglavian invasions at this stage.
Well, it looks like the final invasion that was up, which was a minor victory, pulled out. But yeah, as some people may or may not know, yesterday the Triglavians achieved their 27th final liminality in the Quirian system in Minmatar space, which is a low sec dead-end kind of system that there was a decent amount. There was some fighting over. You'll see some kills and some losses on my kill board, and my alt kill board in the evening when I was sitting in a revelation waiting for an escalation that never happened. but
did they get you in the revelation?
No, my revelation. I never got to drop. I didn't get to drop it in our time zone. In the weaker time zone that we're weaker in EU time zone. They're stronger in EU time zone. We're stronger in the US time zone. But we had an escalation prepared in US time zone, and it never came to that. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is it fell to final liminality, and as soon as that happened, the other liminal system that was up, that was a system in Solitude, immediately just went Fortress. It just stopped. It was still Stellar Recon, but it just stopped and went Fortress, and everybody was like, something's going up. Something's going to happen tomorrow, right? Because that's really weird. And I guess they decided that 27 is really the end and the hard point. When I logged on today, there were still the minor victory systems that were kind of running, but no new systems have spawned, and which is very awkward because we've had like the timing of the windows down. Elizabeth, who is our oracle for Edencom, she did like all kinds of like data collection and came up with she knows when the invasions are going to spawn plus or minus like 6 hours, and it's kind of crazy. But no more invasions have spawned, and there are some changes in the final liminalities in the fortresses when we woke up today. Notably, there's now sites in both of them. You can run the World Arc, you can run flashpoints in final liminalities, and in the Edencom fortresses, you can run flashpoints. So previously, these were sites that we were having trouble doing very often because they would appear at stages in the invasion that would go by very quickly late in the invasion, like right before you win, and they wouldn't be the best way to win. So they weren't done as often because you can't really sit back and farm when you have competition, especially in like the redoubt stages of the Edencom victories, where like it's like a system that was high sec is still high sec, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, this is giving the players, you have some chance before any further changes go with these systems to run some of this content that a lot of people probably missed out on, because as somebody who has done it, it's probably the closest I've come to having fun in PvE in the game, and I say that as a very strongly PvP player. So I would recommend people try to take the chance to run this content. The World Arc is a pretty cool site, and it's shiny, a lot of Triglavians to kill, and I would recommend everybody tries it at least once before easy access at least may or may not go away.
So they're not going to let all that work go away that they did on this stuff.
Well, you had to assume they wouldn't, because the World Arc, like for the example, the World Arc was similar to the World Arc in Chapter 1 of the Triglavian invasions, but maybe toned down a little bit. Maybe not toned down a little bit, but changed in some ways that made it easier to do in the systems that had fallen to liminality, and because you have to be vulnerable when you do it. Even the high sec systems would have fallen to low sec by the time it became available. So you can't run it without being vulnerable. You can't run it in high sec, right? Because even the high sec systems flip to low sec by the time you could run it. and now these systems are the fake nullsec, so there's no security status penalties. But even though there were some bugs, like the first time we finished a world arc was in one of the systems that was about to hit final liminality, and we were in the world arc site as it was ticking down to 0%. And it hit 0%. And then the system bugged out and it went back to high sec, and the faction police spawned and shot all our people with low security status. And it was like the most annoying goddamn thing ever.
I remember hearing about that. That was pretty funny.
That was something.
Yeah. Well, so if the minor victories are still going to be in, those go for both sides, right?
Correct. There's something like 83 Edencom minor victories, and let me get the Triglavian number.
Yeah. By the way, I noticed that you said another Minmatar system was taken. Is that true? Is it now a total of 2? But you defended everything else.
Yeah. So per Empire, the Republic ended up losing 2 with the system of Kuran falling at the end. And so that's Kuran and Skarkon. The Empire lost 4, with 3 being in the Empire proper and 1 being in the Amatar Mandate. So the Empire lost Raravas, Harva, Niarja, and then Kuran in the Amatar Mandate, I think. And the Federation, the Galente Federation, lost 4. Ignabiner, I call it Iguana Bean. Ignabiner, Allah, Vale, and... Oh. No, maybe they lost 5. Vale, Angry Money, Angimoni, and Archie. Maybe the Federation lost 5. So that means the...
Guys lost the least.
The Caldari lost 16.
Whoa.
The Caldari lost 16 out of 27 because the Caldari NPCs were so weak. It was nearly impossible to defend. I think we saved 1 fortress in Samamuni. And after Ikoria, when we poured like our hearts and souls into trying to save that, and it fell anyway, like a lot of people were turned off even trying on Caldari space. It was such a pain to defend.
That's a huge disparity, though. Caldari losing 16, everybody else losing 4, except you losing 2 in the Minotaur space.
And remember, the Caldari have less space than the Galente or the Amar, so fewer invasions pop there than Galente or Amar, for example. Minmatar have the least space of the 4 empires, but Caldari have the second least space, so they're not... And the spawns happen proportionally to about the amount of space they have. Like, it wasn't out of proportion. Like, the Amar Empire was invaded more, but the Amar Empire did relatively very well because the NPCs were actually the strongest NPCs. At some point, they nerfed the Amar NPCs and buffed the Caldari NPCs, but the Amar NPCs were still a little strong, and the Caldari NPCs were still complete garbage because even though they improved their defenses, which was helpful, the missiles just didn't really apply because they didn't have many webs. They didn't have many TPs or anything. So the missiles just didn't apply to especially the smaller Triglavian ships, so they couldn't win any fights.
So what does it mean that these minor victories are going to stick around? How worried should we be about those?
I mean, if your standing is, you're always going to be hostile to one side. So you have to kind of memorize what minor victories you're going through are one by each side, because this means a presence of the NPCs will remain in these minor victories, predominantly the NPC that won, but a little bit from the NPC that lost too. So like in Bay, which is probably the most notable minor victory that people know about, the Edencom side won. So the Edencom puts gun stars up on a lot of the gates and the stations and all that. So if you're jumping in or undocking from a station, there might be big capital artillery staring you down, and if you weren't friendly with Edencom, it'll shoot you.
You're gone.
Likewise, you go through a Triglavian minor victory, like Aldic, for example. It's a werepost that's Triglavian fleets, and that's going to be very persuasive in sending you away if you were not friendly with the Triglavians.
Yeah. So,
the gate camps on both sides are deadly and lock you pretty fast.
Yeah, I know. I've died to them. Last question, because I know you're in a hurry to catch a fleet. So will there be, we talked about the Silk Road and, you know, how it takes a longer trip to get to the marketplace if there's a centralized market. So is there now like a blue Silk Road and a red Silk Road, one for each?
Well, right now, on the Silk Road, there are only Edencom victories, because Sasta and Jark are Edencom fortresses, and you have to go through those to remain in high sec and get from Amar to Minmatar space. And you can go around Avsper, which is a fortress, just with one jump, so that's not hard for the Triglavian players to avoid. But then Bay is another choke point that's an Edencom minor victory. And then it's just that between that entrance of the Mandate into the Republic and the Republic into the Federation, there's Edencom victories. So for just that one little stretch, the Triglavians would have trouble, and I don't think there's high sec around either one.
All right. Well, Arcia, thanks so much for stopping by and filling us in on what's going on. We'll see you Sunday.
Yeah. The one point to make is that with it being Edencom victories, that means a neutral is safe along that 40 jump Silk Road.
Right. Just Triglavian favoring players have to watch out for those.
Yeah, if you got any minus Edencom standing, the Edencom will shoot you there. But you always don't know if somebody woke up the Gunstars or not, because they start not spawn, like the turrets, the Gunstars, and the Wereposts have a response fleet associated with them, and the players of each side will send like an alt and a Corvette to shoot at them to pre-spawn the NPCs, just to watch them kill people all day, because they'll stick around for a while. But yeah, anyway, see you Sunday.
Yeah, thanks so much. See you. Bye. Okay, Mannix, let's go into the news here. First structure from Anaconda was planted into Delve. I forget the name of that system.
I'm not sure of the system name, but it was the, I'm assuming this is the Fortizar that Fraternity dropped.
Yeah, so Fraternity drops a Fortizar, and it's time to basically Fraternity's time zone, which is Chinese, which is really bad for Europe and America. So some people wake up early and some people go to sleep super late, and Fraternity never shows up to defend it, so it just gets wiped out.
That's very odd. I thought the whole point of this was to have content in that time zone.
Maybe, yeah. The idea that Fraternity was, as we were saying yesterday, putting down structures and being able to safeguard them was important to how they built that long chain of keepstars. So this Fortizar that went down, we don't know like much about it. I don't even know the system of it. It was just mentioned in our chat. But it doesn't really surprise me in some sense. Like if Fraternity has numeric superiority, they should have been in there fighting and putting it down. So what I'm thinking is either Goon Swarm showed such an impressive, the Imperium showed such an impressive resistance and CTA and had good numbers that it dissuaded Fraternity from being able to defend its anchoring and onlining. The other thing is a lot of people stayed up late and a lot of people woke up early. And I think there's a lot of disappointment for not having a big fight. So that's part of the psychology of warfare, is to make the other team form even when it's really uncomfortable, and then totally disappoint them by not producing any fun or producing any kill mails. So it could be either of those scenarios. Both make sense. But the point is, first Delve structure from Anaconda was wiped out by Imperium. So that's off the table.
Yeah, that system was SVM TAC 3K. And it looks like Imperium had some capitals and supers on the structure, as well as their Baltic fleet, which is the battleship Megathrons.
Yeah, well, then it sounds more like they were, Fraternity was intimidated away, because that's a pretty good arsenal when you have supers up. I mean, depends on the numbers there.
There's quite a few supers.
780, that's a lot. At that hour, that is a lot. So no fight, but they got their objective, which is good for the Imperium.
Right. Yeah, definitely. They did not like the structure being in Delve. For sure. So
You think? Okay, so we'll have to see. Again, that was just Fraternity putting it down, so no easy victories in Delve for Fraternity alone. You're going to have to bring more, or you just may not be able to overcome the Imperium's resistance inside of their home in Delve.
correct. But as you were saying, this was probably an alarm clock operation for the Imperium. So there's only so many of those, you have in yourself, right? That you can call. You keep calling these, and people will stop showing up eventually just because of work and time zone and just being tired.
I wonder if they're thinking that far ahead. Fraternity is rather new. In the last 2 years, really, their activities sprung up. But I'm sure their leaders are capable, and they're certainly advised by players who've been here a long time. One of the differences between Chinese players, and big stereotypes here, or big archetypes, and Western players is from the perspective of Wind Spirits, who was the founder of Fraternity. The Chinese players are like professional athletes. They are excellent at executing. They condition themselves, and they are machines at getting something done. But they work within a confines of what's expected. Whereas Western players are more like warriors who will dig a pit and put spikes in it and trick you into falling into it. And they use every means possible to destroy you. They don't play by rules. It's all out war. And so that's the psychological difference between how they play.
Yeah, I think some of that was also reference to the old Chinese server, as far as being professional athletes, because I do believe that there were FCs actually being paid to FC.
FCs
right?
are paid here in Tranquility as well. For Russian FCs are paid. I'm pretty sure Chinese FCs are paid, and I think even European FCs get paid. You just that nobody talks about it is all.
Well, we don't know for sure of any of that. So.
Oh, I know for sure. Some FCs get paid.
Yeah. I don't. I have no idea.
Yeah.
You mean real money or in-game money?
Real money.
I'm talking about real money. Yeah, cash money.
Yeah, they get paid for their time. Some people will talk about it. Maybe we'll dig out who's willing to talk about it. I think there might be some trouble with doing that sort of thing, so nobody wants to talk about it. But
I think it breaks the EULA. I'm pretty sure.
Does it? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's bannable.
RMT, but I've definitely heard lots of rumors of various.
Yeah. That I believe that could fall into RMT, right?
Well, real money transaction, that's pretty specific about buying items in the game.
Right.
I think paying somebody for their time isn't considered part of that, but people might be a lot more open about it if they were, but we don't know. But the point of that example saying that Chinese players are more like professional athletes and Western players are more like warriors is the what we call blue balls or hell dunk philosophy of like overwhelm your opponent or don't show up to the fight at all and deprive them of any fun and any victories. That kind of strategy fits well within the Western culture. Not sure it fits that way with the Eastern, and so that's why I was saying they've only been here a couple of years, but I'm sure they've been advised that this is the kind of warfare that we have and that sort of stuff. So all that to say that I wonder if Fraternity looked at that and said, we made them form, and then took off and did something else. Or if they literally looked at that and said, we can't take it and we don't have any allies here, so we're not taking it, and that would just sacrifice that for desire.
Even though Fraternity is the largest group in their time zone, the Chinese alliances in the Imperium are, like Ranger Regiment in particular, was by the end of the war between PanFam and Dead Coalition, the Ranger Regiment was one of the only two alliances that was really heavily forming on their side.
Yeah. I don't know. We're taking it for granted from Gobbin's words when he talked about the superiority of the Anaconda Coalition's ability to control that time zone. So maybe Imperium decided they wanted to prove that wrong and did. We don't know. We weren't up at that hour to find out. We haven't talked to people who were involved on either side. Okay. Next topic is Adversity, that is a corporation inside of Snuff, has gone independent. You'll know Adversity for their Alliance Psychotic Tendency. So it looks like they're forming that again for like the 8th time. And these guys are really base edgelords, in my opinion. A lot of the stuff they've done has been not only questionable, but really despised by people on both sides. I don't mind disparaging them. I've been in an alliance with them, and I've observed them for many years, and their reputation is well earned as edgy edgelords, I guess.
And they typically, even when they're part of an alliance other than Psychotic Tendencies, which they have the executor characters for, they typically do their own thing anyway. Like recently, even though they were part of Snuffed Out, most of what they've been doing for the past few months is camping Pandemic Horde's home systems and picking off people while most of the potential response fleet is on the other side of the map.
And that
And-
was.
And before that, they were doing that to the initiative back in April or so.
And that's the tissue ticker, correct?
Yes, that is Tissue.
Okay. All right. They had a semi-famous pilot there, Agent Zero from Rooks and Kings, flew with them, or at least used to. I don't know if he still does or not.
Yeah. Did we talked about the keepstar that went down yesterday? It was kind of a confusing situation. It was the Losecnia Chopin keepstar that Siege Green assaulted with friends. I think we cleared it up and covered it. Do we have any follow-up information on that keepstar that went down in Aridia?
I haven't really seen any follow-up beyond just that the Imperium, a lot of people thought it was associated with Fraternity because the alliance that holds it has a lot of cloaky camping alts that they've connected to Fraternity somehow. But since Fraternity's allies were the main people attacking it, it's unlikely to have been a Fraternity keepstar. That's all that's been really established.
Just sounds like bad intel. Or bad guessing, or bad information, whatever. But yeah, it did go down yesterday. We talked about that yesterday. I think it's here somewhere. Right here in Aridia. What was funny was trying to see people make sense of it, because they're like, well, people are telling us it's from Fraternity, which is a big deal for them to lose a keepstar, but PL's shooting it, so we can't figure that out. And then it went through this whole process of trying to figure out why PL would shoot their own guys. And it was even suspected that they just wanted to get on the kill mail or something. And it just, none of it made sense until later we figured out it didn't belong to Fraternity at all. It was Losecnia. Okay. Any other piece of news you guys have?
Kotaku, there's a article about Eve released today. Just going over the resource changes, and some players aren't real happy with the change. Seeing a lot of that. Of course, that's to be expected with these type of changes. It's affecting a lot of players.
Written by Lee Yancey, great guy, giant guy. He's like 6'4", I think, tall, but real nice. I really like this guy. He writes for Kotaku, and he put this article together, kind of going through some of the stuff. But yeah, the mineral changes and some of the ruffled feathers are making news. But I have to admit, lately I've seen a lot of people who are kind of positive on this. It's like the example that I said before, where people are disrupted, and they need to, like, first of all squawk at the disruption, and then take a second look at it and say, maybe there's opportunities for me here. I've been hearing a lot of that kind of revisionism. You saw there was on Reddit, actually, that was an article. Let's go to Reddit and see it. This shows you how often I go to Reddit, because I don't have it up here. There you go. And this one was like, this is one of the best changes of the year or something.
I
Actually,
totally missed that post there, but I'm okay with the change. I think it's fine. Not jumped any conclusions. Just like you just gotta wait and see what happens. There's still plenty of resources that haven't been used. A lot of stockpile still out there.
here it is. This one got already 400 and over 400 upvotes.
Are you talking about Lelob's post?
Yeah, Lelov. Yeah.
Yeah, he's an old PL guy. He's always someone who's worth listening to.
Right. He titles this, "The ore redistribution will be one of the best patches of all time." And that's a big statement. So he goes on and lists some of the reasons why it will be. I'm going to give you the link now so you can read it. I haven't finished the article. I was skimming it. But the reaction was really nice. It was, people were saying they thought so too. So I expected there to be a lot of fire towards any article that was positive. But I think his credibility and his explanations may have been persuasive. So this isn't just something that's getting brigaded down. Now, and that alone is interesting. So on the one hand, you have Kotaku saying that, yeah, people are mad. This is maybe a couple days old now, but the article just came out today. Right. It's just how the major press has a lag time. And here you can see that people are kind of starting to get more comfortable with the mineral changes, it looks like. Now,
well, I was excited for them. So
here's the big takeaway of Sunday's show that, well, my big takeaway, and that was that CCP has said this is the baseline. And if you think about it, that means that they have essentially like torn down the house and you have this vacant lot, and people are looking at it saying, well, I can't sleep in that space. I'm not going to sleep on a dirt floor. And what you should think about is, no, that's the clearing of the house that was there before. Now they're going to build the foundation in a new house over stages, and you'll be living in a room like a normal person. And so that's how you should. This is the scorched earth. Like, this is as bad as it gets right now for mineral distribution. This is the harsh cut, and they are going to build on that. And again, that was the takeaway I got from the CCP presentation on Sunday. So Noxium being super rare unless you have pirate friends in low sec may be mostly true in very typical ways, but they might find interesting ways to bring Noxium deposits into into high sec or null sec. And yeah, you might see a mixture through mechanics in the future.
I think for lore reasons, they should put a lot of Noxium in the Outer Ring region, because that's what made the discovery of Noxium in that region was what made Outer Ring expeditions a valuable enough company that it became was able to become independent of the Galente Federation as a whole and be the makers, the designers of the mining ships we fly now. So that's what lore reasons make me think that they should put a lot of Noxium in Outer Ring.
Make it worth fighting over.
Right. That'd be interesting for sure.
We don't know what they're going to do. We're speculating, but the idea is that the initial fervor against this has kind of calmed, and now there seems to be a discussion going on. I'm not saying that it's going the other direction, but there seems to be more room for a discussion about these changes, and we will see what happens in the future. And before you decide that the world's all turned upside down, remember that this is the baseline, and it's going to be built up with some texture after this. And I think that's when the dynamic stage will hit. And this is just speculation, but they have said there's going to be a dynamic layer to this, which means something will have to be more or less depending on some mechanics. So you can assume that they're going to start layering in opportunities for deposits for things that you might need, which means you have to do more appointment mining rather than just grazing. That's again, assumptions. We'll see what CCP comes up with in the future. And Rorquals will have a role to play. It won't be the role they had before, but maybe they get some boosting help or something and go back to the kind of role they had before. Rorquals before were mining fleet ships, and they just boosted. And you had a whole clone bay in there so you could have your mining characters live in the Rorqual.
Yeah, they would stay in a pos in the shield and just boost from the shield the entire system. So you just need one Oracle per system.
Right. And that's how they were used. But their whole idea when they were designed was that these would be capital ships for a mining fleet. So you had your mining barges inside of it, and you had your jump clones inside of that Rorqual, and that Rorqual could essentially act like a bus and take your guys to a system. Everybody clones into that Rorqual, jumps out in the skiffs or the barges, mines, jumps back in the Rorqual, and your mining op is done. And that's how they were envisioned early on, but they totally got away from that when they revamped it and made it a solo mining ship essentially, because boosts changed and all the compression of ore went to refineries, and so Rorquals had really no role to play, so they became solo mining ships for individual players, essentially. All right. There's something else along those lines I wanted to tackle, and that was... I forgot. Oh, yeah. So I was reading what Dunk Dinkle, and he's in chat right now, was writing in TIS Discord, and he says that the fuel deposits are a lot lower than they were before on the test server. And I didn't read the number, but I think it was like 70% less. I'm going to go check right now. We'll have a look here. Yeah, so Dunk writes, initial reports of 70 to 90% of all ice belts in the game gone from the test server. I don't think he witnessed that firsthand, but he did collect that information somewhere. I think he goes on to say, that is an astoundingly high number. We know they're going to be reduced, but if they're reduced by 70 to 90%, fuel prices are going up. Fuel's going up. Liquid ozone's going up. The costs of empires and logistics for them is going way up.
This definitely could affect the war, actually, if you think of all the fuel they'll need for the capital ships, right? Titans and Supers and even Dreadnoughts. Luckily, everything's moved into position now for the most part, so I'd hate to have something like this happen. Need to move.
Well, I don't think it affects the war if you just listen to the players that are fighting the war. They have said they have endless amounts of money on both sides, so it shouldn't. I mean,
well, gas
prices.
If you don't have the
prices
war,
aren't going to stop the tanks from fighting. You need, if you have the soldiers there, they're not going to say we're out of gas. We're not going to fight. It's just going to cost a lot more, I think.
Well, I mean, if you don't have the resources, if we can't mine enough in the game to supply them with the resources they need to make the fuel,
I think
no matter how much money they have.
Yeah, at least on the Imperium side, there was one guy that was collecting, just buying up all the liquid ozone. I think it was their logistics master, and he had just bought.
There's a lot of stockpiles.
Yeah,
there's a lot of stockpiles.
The stockpiles in Delve are like,
or anywhere, any of the major no blocks has been where they're at for a while.
Yeah, Delve doesn't have to move stockpiles though, and that's an advantage. Yeah. So,
of course, this is speculation. It's just test server speculation, right?
Yeah, 70-90%, and they could do that to kind of freak people out. It will create a buying spree if it ends up getting out there, and we're helping. Ice is going away.
Yeah,
right?
if people can't get the ice products like Straunt and Jump Fuel, they'll be using caps less often, and they will be anchoring fewer citadels because the fuel blocks for citadels also require.
Yeah, they require ice products,
Yeah,
PI and ice products. Yep.
and reactions also require fuel blocks, so it would make Tech 2 and Tech 3 ships more expensive as well.
Yeah.
And the drugs would also get more expensive.
Right. All right. Last piece of news here: the art of the war, World War B, and the Imperium. Using the Imperium's version of the war, calling it World War B. We use the World War B2 occasionally. I don't even think we call it World War B anymore at all. But good long article from Greydock, essentially saying it's kind of interesting because the psychology is like you might destroy everything we have, but we still have each other. And I thought, is that your frame of mind? Are you already getting comfortable with losing Delve? Because there's a lot of that. You can't destroy us that way. And I don't think that's what he's saying, but he's saying like what one of the narratives is now, that you can't really destroy an alliance, right? Because it's just the will of the players to play. And as long as they want to log in, you can't destroy them. But historically, if you look at it, players leave the game in pivotal moments. And whether it's the Imperium or Test or whoever wins this war, the losers are going to have to evaluate if they want to put that much time into this anymore. And when leaders leave, that's when alliances fall. If you look at Band of Brothers, they're gone. If you look at Atlas, they're gone. Their leader left. You look at Solar Fleet, pretty much gone. Look at XX Death, pretty much gone. Alliances die in this game, and sometimes, actually most of the time, they're killed off. So it can happen. It just depends on the leader's will to put the energy into keeping it alive. So we'll have to see on whose side. I'm not saying they're going to die, but that's what the article is written from that point of view. It could very well be Test, could very well be Horde, could be anybody. But alliances can absolutely be killed in this game. You can't just say we'll keep playing because you'll just see historically alliances have been wiped out.
Yeah, Legion of X Death's still pretty strong now, although it's not led by Death anymore.
Yeah.
So,
is that
yeah,
right? Are they strong? I haven't heard much from them.
They're pretty much the main coalition, the main alliance in the Fire Coalition.
Yeah.
With Razor and the other Russian alliances that's with them.
Well, there's groups that come back over and over again as their leader comes back, but they're not the same group. Like you have, I mean, look at there's just
right. It's not the
same people. It's not the same energy. It's not the same culture.
Right.
Maybe it's the same culture. I don't know.
It's yeah, but they're still. It's not like CO2 or something that's just completely not on the map anymore.
Yeah,
right.
Or you pick up the flag of that team. That's the same flag, same logo. But it's not the same players.
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
not the same group. But no, I just want to push back a little bit on that narrative because it's picking up like the stuff that you can't really kill players unless you can't really kill an alliance, and I've seen way too many alliances get killed. So I think you need to look at history and understand that it happens in EVE Online. So.
GOTG Day Coalition.
Yeah, I mean, swords gone, places falling apart. Yeah, absolutely.
So
anyway,
it happened.
I took too many privileges arguing back that narrative, but I kind of feel like sometimes people need to stop listening to everything people are telling you and take a look at EVE history, and you will see more truth in history than you will from people telling you what they think right now, unless you're all looking at it. But
that again, looking back through EVE history, the Goons have been probably one of the most resilient alliances in the game ever. So
I wouldn't call them resilient. They've actually won a lot. They've been on the winning side a lot. They only actually lost.
yeah.
If I think of it, they've really only lost a couple times. One, they self-destructed, right? Cartoon blew them up. Or their mismanagement, or they actually had an identity crisis where they were switching from like the Goons to Imperium style Goon Swarm that we have now. That was one time where they actually kind of lost, but they beat themselves essentially. And then the second time they really got piled on in the north where they were dislodged in World War B. And so they got moved out, but they didn't die then because they had a plan and they had enough people and they had enough of their assets that they could actually lily pad out. So all their capital ships, not their super capitals, those came later, maybe, I don't know when they came, they smuggled them out, but their caps were able to move out. Their, their freighters, everything was able to move. And that's one of the reasons that they were able to have, and they took their time building up Delve. They didn't do it right away. It took some time. So there were definitely some conditions that allowed that to happen. But most of the time, Goons have dominated New Eden, or at least survived being dominated. They won the Fountain War, and shortly after that, they really dogpiled into the Halloween War. Those are the two major wars of the early 2010s. UALX, I call it the Year of the Titans. They basically marched on the north and made a deal to stop, but they could have kept marching. It just would have taken longer. And they aided Tess in the south. So that whole year belonged to them as far as victories. They have been winning a lot. And right now it remains to be seen if they will continue that winning streak, because they have a very formidable opponent. These are two heavyweights and they're in the ring now. So
well, I mean, you've got literally pretty much every other major alliance in the game attacking them. And that's how strong they are. It takes that to kind of get the upper hand on them. Right. So they're extremely strong still. So it's yet to be seen.
Yeah, absolutely does. And again, we're saying like, but don't be naive and think that a group can't actually be killed from the game. Of course, the players can log back in, but the identity, the flag, and all that stuff might belong to something else. But what you have now can go away if other players exert influence on you and make it miserable. You will lose people who will say, I could do something better with my time than suffer losses or whatever. If you've ever been through a cascade, or if you've ever been through a losing campaign, it hurts a lot and it's not fun. No matter what, you can act like it's totally fun, but it's not fun, especially losing a campaign in your home. That's really not fun either. So there's added pressure on Imperium that there isn't on Test, unless it flips around and Imperium starts walking all over Test space and evicting them. And then Villy has to be the one consoling his guys to say, it's all right, it's just soft, but it's not all right. It's really painful. Okay. Yep. That's all we got today. One last chance. You guys have anything else?
Well, I did see someone sold a Leviathan for 68 mil on the market. So I'm not sure.
Leviathan.
I don't want to speculate. Yeah. So that was a little interesting thing there.
Yeah, someone obviously listed the price and made a mistake listing the price.
Oh, 68 million.
68 million.
Did it get bought?
Yes.
Apparently, yeah. Somebody put 68 million. So
yeah, somebody
there's
that.
speculation on maybe like some nefarious ongoings or dealings with that, but probably someone just left off a few zeros.
Sounds like a couple. Yeah, sounds like a couple zeros, maybe 3.
Yeah. A few zeros were left off that one.
Yeah. Ah, somebody got a good deal. Good for them.
Really good deal. Yeah, absolutely.
I'd buy a Leviathan for 68 million if I saw that.
Yep.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks, everyone, for showing up today. We will be back tomorrow with more EVE Online. Until then, enjoy Talking in Stations Discord, and we will see you tomorrow. Thanks.